Yeah, I thought I'd make a quick video about maybe help support people who are new to the experience of Kundalini, are sort of excited by it, seemingly excited by it from what I can tell, but also struggling with it in various ways because they feel like the Kundalini is kind of jerking them around. First, it all started out very hopeful and wonderful, and full of expansion and light and feelings of bliss and well-being and understanding and uh, perhaps feeling this is takeoff. Here we go. That's things are only going to get better. And then in the course of time, they discover that actually it's not quite as easy as that. Um, and it is, for the vast majority of us, not going to be as easy as that. In fact, in Buddhist tradition, they say there's four ways in which we come to full awakening. One is slow with lots of pain, and the other is fast with lots of pain. One is slow with little pain, and one is fast with little pain. And I think I've only met one monk who was fast with little pain, and I've got to say he was a terrible teacher of human beings, because all he could say was, breathe in, breathe out, and be free. That is, but because that's what he did. That's how he experienced it. But the vast majority of people, almost everybody, is going to be slow with lots of pain. And how you feel about what I've just said, in a sense, is going to be indicative of why perhaps you're getting jerked around. Because if you see pain as a problem, see pain as problematic, see pain as something you had an expectation you're going to be free from, just instantly, the Kundalini was just going to take you away from that. You take off like a spaceship and head off into the cosmos of stars and light and angels and all the rest of it. That's not what Kundalini's got in store for you at all. And this is not why we are here as human beings in the human condition. So perhaps one reason you might be jerked around is because of your expectations, because you have expectations that the Kundalini is going to behave in a certain way and take you on a certain type of journey. Whereas it's very, very important that we understand the journey that is particular to being human. And the Kundalini is going to enforce upon us a lesson in being human, and it's going to enable us to really deepen that lesson and take it far. But we have to nevertheless undergo that lesson. Maybe you've climbed the hill and you've seen this beautiful city in the distance, and because you have glimpsed that beautiful citadel, you've glimpsed that beautiful place, you now have a sense of it, a memory of it, and perhaps you think you're entitled to be there. But in all honesty, we have to come down the mountain and make that journey. And the journey, in the course of that journey, we may lose sight of that citadel. There may only be a memory of it. But nevertheless, that journey has to be made if you want to actually get to the place that you've seen. And that's the heartbreaking truth. There's just no escaping it. And it's not bad news. It's just perhaps news that you had not understood or anticipated or had bargained for. So I've experienced Kundalini in conjunction with being trained in Buddhist forest contemplative tradition. And it's been an important combination, because the Buddhist forest contemplative tradition has kept me grounded in being human. And the expectation inside that tradition is that you begin to penetrate the human condition from this side, the ordinariness of it, the biology of it, the physical body of it, just being human is having a body, and it's this physical body needs to be understood. Inside this physical body, there's all sorts of human feelings, human sensations, human emotions. The Kundalini is then going to make contact with all of that, and then it's the churning that happens as your human sense of your human self meets this divine or cosmic self or higher self. And it's what begins to happen as these two come together. And part of the process of being human then is to, in a sense, bring heaven to earth. But we have to go through the evolutionary process. The body, the biology itself has to go through lots of adjustments, many of which are very uncomfortable, in order to integrate Kundalini. I've been going through this process for 30 years, and I know, I've got this bliss. I've got access to bliss constantly, but at the same time, this huge amount of intense physical discomfort associated with that when I, straighten up, sort of withdraw my attention from my senses and just focus on intensifying the Kundalini presence in the body. Huge amount of physical discomfort, but I become accustomed to it, and my sense of it is intrinsic okayness. My job is to meet that discomfort. Sometimes I could go so far as to say, is to meet the terror of annihilation, and I have spent time in presence of complete terror, just to be able to be present to it and sense that there's the terror, but also there's the freedom from that terror. There's the bliss, there's the expansion that the Kundalini brings to the picture, but at the same time, there's the from the point of view of my physical apparent situation, as a physical body situated in the midst of a universe, there's the terror, and that is okay that the two coexist. And I don't make a big song and a dance out of it. In fact, I've never even mentioned it really to many people before. It's just the way it is. And one of the issues that people are having with their Kundalini experience is they've got this expectation that they're going to not have to encounter anything that might be interpreted as difficult. I can assure you, what you need to do is learn to encounter what is difficult, learn to encounter what is perhaps strange or unexpected or unusual, and just normalize it through accepting, okay, that's the way it is. I've had so many experiences, some amazing, some less amazing, but some that certainly could be interpreted as frightening, that you just say, okay, it's the way it is. I've had Kundalini pass through my body that is so strong, literally feels like a jet engine is revving up to take off. And at that point, it's so strong that I have no control over what I can do with my body. I just have to surrender to it. And, although I'm not even thinking it, my instinctual sense is, this is nature, this is what's happening. If it takes me away, so be it. If my body doesn't survive it, so be it. And I just accept it. I accept the physical pain that the Kundalini takes me. I mean, whenever I go to bed, basically going to bed and going to sleep is just a Kundalini ride. It's a Kundalini roller coaster every single night. And what comes with that is an encounter with my contraction, an encounter with my resistance, and the willingness to meet my resistance, meet my contraction, and then let the Kundalini start working on it. And in Buddhist scripture, they talk about piti, which is an enlightenment factor, which is bliss. And the Buddha says, you got to wash this through your body constantly, like the dissolving of soap into bath water, and you use the subtle breath in order to do that churning, do that circulation. And this is a lifetime journey. I don't even know where all the pain comes from. A lot of it is certainly, out of proportion to anything I've experienced in this lifetime. I've sometimes thought, I think if you start to go beyond personal pain, then you start to be taking responsibility for collective pain. Pain, and the cessation of pain, or pain and the turning of that pain into love, basically is the alchemical activity that the Kundalini is inviting, is compelling us to engage with. We've got to, it's asking us to be responsible to the gift that we've been given, and then take on board whatever arises, whether it's personal or collective pain, personal or collective disease, or, whatever is arising, to take that and to use the alchemy that the Kundalini basically grants us, to turn that into gold. And we are essentially a crucible for that process. And what we are doing is contributing to the whole sort of cycle of the universe evolving itself and deepening itself. And I used to think when I was younger that, by the time I was this age, I was just going to be, some sort of semi demigod. I was going to be free from all of this, and I was just going to be like, a radiant ball of light. And to a certain extent, there is a radiant ball of light there, but I've not actually, that radiant ball of light has not granted me escape from my human frailties, the human condition, and it never will until this body dies. And my responsibility then to my body, to the world, to my life, is to continue to bring presence to my human frailties, my human limitations, to bring presence to it, the Kundalini grants me, to bring presence to it, and keep making all of that more and more transparent. So it is a continuous process of purification. As I say, if I go beyond the personal purification, I think, you start to tune into the collective pain. So, it's going to be a big job. You could reach the point where you're feeling the anxiety and fear of a spider being chased by a bird. That's out there. It's out there in the universe. You're going to encounter it. Then you've got to, in a sense, bring freedom to it through applying the insight and perspective, illumination that Kundalini brings to see through it and transform it alchemically into gold. So yeah, if you're feeling jerked around by your Kundalini, if you're feeling that it's not going the way you, inverted commas, want, then you really got to bear in mind this task that really we've been given on Earth. There's a story in scripture that I love. I'm just going to finish off with this, which is the Buddha is walking through the forest with a group of monks, and he bends down and he picks up a handful of leaves, and he turns to the monks and says, "Which is more, all the leaves on all the trees in the forest, or the handful of leaves that I hold in my hand?" And the monks say to him, "Lord, there's a lot more leaves on all the trees in the forest than there are leaves in your hand." And the Buddha turns to the monks and says, "So it is. That which I've seen and understood can be compared to all the leaves on all the trees in the forest. But that which you need to know for your own well-being and liberation can be compared to the handful of leaves that I hold in my hand." And this is at the very heart of the problem, that, there's a lot of things out there which are true experiences, real experiences, true understanding, fascinating, interesting, useful in a number of ways, but not necessarily relevant to your freedom, to the freedom of your heart, to the freedom of your mind. So if you become overly fascinated with Kundalini, if you try and impose expectations on it that are outside of the hardwire agenda that the universe has in store for us, which is to understand this much narrower issue, that is the predicament of having a human body and transforming our sense of the body as an opaque definition of who and what I am, and then making the body literally transparent and radiant and experiencing it literally as light. We've got to go through that entire journey, and in the course of doing that journey, we have to go through all the pain that comes with being a human being and accept it as our teacher, not just as an inconvenience that's getting in the way of my Kundalini, and then resenting it, reacting to it, complaining about it, whining about it. You've got to become a warrior. You've got to accept that there's some ruggedness to this. There's some, and that's okay. And the essential lesson of life is to learn that pain is okay. Pain is not okay. Pain is okay. You can be present to that pain. I'm not going to go into a detailed unpicking exactly of that process. We'll go into that another time. You can be present to pain and find freedom in the midst of that pain, total and absolute freedom. And that's why we're here. That's what the Kundalini is here to accelerate and magnify that process. And if you misinterpret or misunderstand that is what's being required of us, what's being demanded of us, and hope to just jump straight to go and just go straight into kind of some sort of ball of painless light and wisdom and power where you're never going to have to deal with any of this, then I'm afraid you've got a surprise in store. So I wish you all the luck on your Kundalini journey. I have no intention of offending anybody. Take what I say with a grain of salt. If it makes sense to you, accept it. If it doesn't, move on. And I will continue to offer what I can, and particularly respond to any questions that arise in my very tiny YouTube channel. But if you think this would be of help to anybody, spread the word. I've decided in these times I might as well share what I can and disseminate whatever information I can to help others. So thank you for your support and help. And if you got to the end of this, congratulations. You must be serious. Bye for now.